Have you ever noticed that the people with the most to say about what you're doing? Hey, welcome to Wow Words of Wisdom. This is the podcast where we talk about all things mindset, all things confidence, and taking action, even when it feels scary. I'm Sharon McCaffrey, and if there's one thing I know for sure, it's this. Your mindset shapes everything. The way you think, the way you show up, the way you go after what you really want, and it all starts in your head. So if you've ever felt stuck, doubted yourself, or wondered if you're really capable of more, you're in the right place. Each week, let's break through those mental blocks, shift your perspective, and start making things happen. Welcome back to Words of Wisdom today. And today I'm going to talk to you about the loudest critics do the least and why you should ignore the naysayers. So, have you ever noticed that the people with the most to say about what you're doing aren't actually doing much themselves? You know, when I started up my business years ago, there were so many naysayers, so many people telling me that, oh, I shouldn't do it, it won't work. I had one friend in particular, she's not a friend anymore, give out to me all the time about it and said that like you're wasting your time, all that there. And then when I did succeed, she actually said, well done. And she said, I knew you were going to make it, all this sort of stuff. And I was thinking, like, that's not what you said at the time. Think about that one person who told you, or, that you or your business idea would never work, but they were still stuck in the same job that they hated. Today, we're diving into why, the loudest critics do the least, how to actually spot them, and most importantly, how to tune out from them. The first thing is that we want to establish is like, why do people who do less, why do they talk more? And this is what I call the armchair expert analogy. Like, have you ever noticed like how the people shouting the most at the TV during a football game are not actually the professional athletes? So people who don't take action themselves, they feel the need to comment on others who do. Those who take risks and chase the big goals, they're far too busy working to actually waste time criticizing. Like, if you think about it, like, Beyonce isn't sitting around writing nasty comments on YouTube videos. No, because she's far too busy being Beyonce. So understand that criticism from people who aren't where you want to be is like taking fitness advice from somebody who never goes to the gym. Like, why would you listen? And I always talk about, that one friend that we all have, the one that gives us advice on our career, but they don't have a job, or they don't have one that they enjoy, or they give us relationship advice, but they're single. It's like taking financial advice from somebody that's broke. It just doesn't make sense. So the next part then is that psychology of a loud critic. And I talk about the mirror effect. So when someone criticizes you, it's not actually often about you. It's about them. Them seeing you take action reminds them of what they're actually not doing or what they're not prepared to do. So it's a little bit like putting a mirror on them of what they're not prepared to do. I remember coming across this analogy once, and it's called the tall poppy syndrome. This is when people see someone rising, they actually try to cut them down to make themselves feel better. And it's easier to pull others down than to pull yourself up. I call them the keyboard warriors, the ones that will go online and write stuff about you, and they're trying to pull you down, but it's like, what are they actually doing themselves? If you think about it, like successful people, they're not perfect, okay? But they don't waste energy tearing others down because they're too busy leveling up. We're all in a world, we're all learning, we're all, like trying to get ahead. So there's nothing positive in trying to pull somebody down. The next part then is, how do you actually spot a loud critic and how do you handle them? For me, like the red flags of a loud critic is like they never actually take risks, but has an opinion on yours. And I always say there's a big difference between something that's opinion and something that's fact. And lots of people have lots of opinions on lots of things. Doesn't make it true. And it comes back to that, what I was saying earlier on, like unless they've done what you're trying to achieve, well, then it's really just an opinion. It's not a fact. They talk a lot, but they don't actually do that much. Their criticism generally isn't constructive. It's typically just negativity. You want to handle them like a boss. How I do it is I always ask myself, would I trade places with you? And in my head, I go, I'll only take advice from people that I would trade places with. So if they are where I want to be, I'll take the advice. But if they're not, then I won't. And I have this, like, I suppose it's my way of dealing with them. I smile, I agree, and then I move on. So it's a little bit like, thank you, next. Acknowledge what they've said. Don't engage. Just move on. So you can say something like, oh, that's an interesting perspective. Sometimes when people say things to me like, oh, what are you doing that for? They're like, that's not going to work out. I just say, yeah, do you know what? You're probably right. And it just cuts the conversation. Like, there's nowhere for them to go. Because I want you to think of your energy. It's like a currency and you want to spend it wisely. And so much of your energy can be consumed by trying to defend what you're doing, trying to defend your ideas from somebody with a really, really fixed mindset that their sole purpose is negativity and to criticize and to put you down. The way I look at it is, if someone's words don't build you up or they don't challenge you to grow, they don't deserve your attention. So who are the real critics that matter? Who should you listen to? I know for me personally, I'll always listen to people that are ahead of me. As I said, would I trade places with you? If the answer is yes, and they're doing more than me, and they are where I want to be, of course I'm going to take their advice. You want to listen to people who build you up, but while they're also holding you accountable, and those who lead by example, not by loud opinions. And I want you to think of, like, the mentor versus the hater. A real mentor will challenge you, but they will never try to break you. A hater just wants to bring you down to their level. And you need to be able to distinguish the difference. Criticism from the right people is fuel. It's feedback. It's helping you to move forward. Criticism from the wrong people is just noise. And you need to be able to block out that noise. So why you should keep moving forward anyway? I believe that actions drown out the doubt. The best response to a critic is success. That saying, revenge is a dish best served cold. But it's a little bit like that. It's like, if you go out and the critic who's trying to dampen your spirits and put you down, go out and work harder, go get the result, become successful. That's the best response for them. So instead of engaging, just put your head down and get to work. Look, if you look at, like, some of the famous people out there, like, I talk a lot about J.K. Rowling because I really, really admire her. She was rejected 12 times before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. She was somebody that was doubted a lot, but won in the end. She put her head down, she became successful, and that quietened or silenced the critics. So this is a challenge for you this week. When someone criticizes you, ask yourself, are they doing more than me? If not, ignore it, keep going, and prove them wrong. And just to wrap this up, loud critics, they don't build, they just talk. So stop listening to the noise and keep doing what's setting your soul on fire. And I really want to invite, the listeners here today to share your experiences. If you've ever had a loud critic in your life, I've had lots of them, tell me about it, DM me, tag me, let's talk. And guys, again, thank you for listening to Wow Words of Wisdom today. I would love if you could share this with a friend or with somebody that you think that this might help. So have a wonderful day. And that's my words of wisdom for today's episode of Wow. I hope this gave you something to think about. Because remember, your mindset shapes your reality. The way you choose to think today will impact what you create tomorrow. If you love this episode, let me know. Share it, tag me, or send me a message. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that follow or subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Catch you next time.